It's time for the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner. Live from Lee's Photography in downtown Ottumwa. Here's your host, Jason Van Arkel.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner. We are live at Lee's Photography in downtown Ottumwa on 1240 AM, 102.7 FM KBIZ, and a live video stream at AttumwaRadioSports.com. Jason Van Arkel with you, and I'll be joined in a moment by members of the Ottumwa High football team, who we start with every week. This week, we have offensive line coach Brett Cancelar, defensive line coach Kurt Hopkins, and players Tanner Holman, Brody Slack, Gabe Jacobs, and Jesus Jaime. As we usually do, though, we will start out by running down what we're looking forward to tomorrow night as we reach the 1st October of Friday Night Football. And Ottumwa will be at home, a tough game against the Dragons of Johnston. That's a 7:30 kick tomorrow night. You'll hear it right here on KBIZ and see it right here on the live video stream. Davis County hits the road to take on Eddyville Blakesburg Fremont tomorrow night. That'll be on a live video stream at AttumwaRadioSports.com beginning at 7 o'clock. Van Buren plays at home, coming off their first win of the season, but a very tough matchup at home versus Sigourney Keota. That'll be 7 o'clock tomorrow night on 92.7 KTWA. Pekin will go for win number 3 in a row. They're on the road at Highland tomorrow night, 7 o'clock kick on 101.5 KISS FM. And it is homecoming for Centerville. They're at home to take on Sheraton. 7 o'clock kickoff tomorrow night on 97.7 TOM FM. Other area games tomorrow night. Cardinal is at home to take on Durant. We'll talk to Cardinal head coach Landon Miller and a couple of his players later on in the show tonight. Albee is at home looking for their first win. They'll take on another winless team in Central Lee. Fairfield at home to face Fort Madison. Oskaloosa will travel to Newton tomorrow night. And then in 8-man football, Moravia is at home to take on Mormon Trail, and Twin Cedars hits the road to take on Baxter. So that is your football Friday night schedule for tomorrow night. And when we return here on the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner, we'll start breaking down Ottumwa High as they get ready to take on the Johnston Dragons. Keep it right here, the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
Are you looking for someone to capture the special moments in life, such as senior photos, weddings, family portraits, baby pictures, or even your furry friends? Look no further than Lee's Photography in Ottumwa to schedule your appointment. Brian, Connie, and the staff at Lee's Photography have the knowledge and experience to capture your special moments and make your vision come to life. Visit them on Facebook to see the range of their work. Lee's Photography on East 2nd Street, across from the Courier in Ottumwa, for all your all-around photography needs. Welcome back to the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
And we continue with the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner here on 1240 AM, 102.7 FM KBIZ, and a live video stream at AttumwaRadioSports.com. Jason Van Arkel with you. We're talking Ottumwa High football to start the show, and I'm joined now by offensive line coach Brett Cancelar, as well as center Tanner Holman and right guard Brody Slack. Tanner on the far side there, and Brody in the blue. Coach Cancelar here next to me. And, Coach, obviously, well, we'll start with this. Not saying this had any huge impact on the outcome, but the game last week started a half hour late because of the lightning delay. And just in general, what effect can that have on a high school kid who's getting ready to play a football game? And is there anything you guys can do or that you try to do to help the kids deal with the delay?
Sometimes it tends to throw a guy's mojo and rhythm off a little bit. Whenever you tell them, hey, man, we're going to go at 7:30, and then you say, timeout, let's take a little bit, okay? It throws them off a lot. I know that it happened to me a couple times in high school too. It takes about a quarter to get back in the flow of stuff. But what we did was we told them, hey, first off, get off your feet a little bit. Make sure that you're relaxed, ready to go. Refocus. We went through a couple plays. We talked through scenarios. We had their brains still activated, but we took the load off of the physical aspect of it. So it was good for a couple guys to kind of get a little bit more mental work in, of course, but it is weird physically to try to get back into it after taking a little bit of time off with that.
I'm sure it's better though to have the delay and then you start as opposed to what we had. Well, I remember 2013, and, the Mason City game where we didn't start for a while, then we started, then we stopped, we started again. Hopefully we never have that this year. It has been a tough couple of weeks for the offense. When you look at the video for last week and the week before as well, can you pinpoint some things that maybe were working well earlier in the season, things that the guys can improve on or maybe get back to what they had been doing well?
Really, we just need to kind of, like you said, get back to what we're doing well. We got to just focus on the little minute details, all right? We've had a lot of times where we've done what we need to do, but not getting it down to that 100%. Getting it at 90% when the other guy's going 100% isn't going to cut the mustard very well. So we got to make sure that we're going through there and getting all those little tiny things that we have to do on every play. If we're getting a down block, we got to keep our shoulder pads low. If we're running the football, we got to cover it up with both hands. Getting just those little tiny things that, if something bad does happen on that could change the course of a game. And then we got to keep our mentality as a go out there and get it mentality instead of, it's not going well. Let's stay aggressive, keep our foot on the pedal, and get going again. Now,
last week, Kai Glosser missed the game. He was ill. Andrew Cole filled in, had a decent day, 81 rushing yards and a touchdown. And most of your guys on the O-line have blocked for Kai and for Gage Cole, and you have Andrew Cole last week. Is there anything different when there's a different guy in the game for the guys up front? Is there anything different? Guys maybe have different styles, or is it pretty much all the same?
We do have guys. We know that those three backs, they all do have their own way of getting the ball to progress forward for us. We know that Gage is going to just run it right up the gut and hit it in there. We know that Kai's going to do that and bounce it a little bit, and we know that Andrew's not going to get caught by about anybody. He's going to try to finesse his way out there, but he's never afraid to stick his nose up the middle. We know that whenever we're blocking that stuff, we have to take care of what's inside the tackles. If we take care of business there, we know that those guys in the back are going to not be afraid to put their nose in, or they'll bust it outside where they can get some open field area too.
Obviously, things aren't going to get any easier this week with Johnston. We were talking about it before we went on. We're in that run of purple teams, and Indianola, Johnston, Waukee, same as last year.
Right.
And Johnston hasn't allowed a point the past 2 weeks, and they haven't given up more than 20 points in any game all season. They're 3-2. They're not ranked. You can maybe argue that they should be. There's a lot of kind of cluster up there at the top. But what makes their defense so good? And then what does your O-line have to do to try to open some holes against these guys?
They got a lot of fast, aggressive guys. When I look through their lineup and everything, and I watch their film, they got big dudes, but they're not overwhelmingly big. But they've got guys who play really, really hard. You got a guy who will come off the ball on the edges, who's an aggressive guy. He's never afraid to get his hands in there and start shooting on those. They've got dudes who can really work. And for us, our big key thing is maintaining our mentality. We got to know where we're going. We got to get there. We got to get to that place, and we got to arrive. I'll say LPG coach's thing, angry. We'll say that we're going to arrive angry. So, like I said, if we can do that and like I said earlier, get those little tiny things right, I think that we've got a good shot of being able to do a little bit of damage offensively.
Now, obviously, last year we went up to Johnston, so this is the second year playing them in a row, and it was a long night last year. But is there anything that you can go back and look at that tape from a year ago and look at what Johnston is doing and learn something and be able maybe to be better prepared for them this time around?
I know that for their offense, for our defense, we looked at a lot of the things that we did last year. We took a lot of our scout report and did kind of the same thing. We know that they're running the gun. As far as for using it for offense, we know that there's some guys who are coming back. We can see, hey, this guy likes to hit a rip move. Hey, this guy likes to spin. We see him get into different shades. It does help us a lot to watch that film, but they can kind of interchange into a lot of different things. They're a multiple defense type of front and team, so.
And then, we've passed the halfway point of the season now, and there's really no way an offensive line can go through a season and not get banged up along the way. We've seen some guys come in and out. You've had to make some changes. What's the status of you guys health-wise going into tomorrow?
We're getting better, all right. We've got Brody back if his elbow hold up. Let's hope. Anyways, his brother will be back soon too. Ryan's been working really hard trying to get back on the field after going through protocol and stuff. We've got a core group of guys. We've got Tanner who's been there and he's able to play any spot. We've got, as we know, the utility man Quentin Bishop able to go wherever we need him to go. He might play quarterback next week for all we know.
Don't tell Adam that.
Oh yeah, no. But like I said, we've got a lot of guys who are ready to step up. We've got the younger guys too, even at the sophomore level, who have provided a great look for us all week. Who've been doing a really good job with their offensive stuff too.
Ottumwa offensive line coach Brett Cancelar. Easy for me to say. We're going to move down the table a little bit here now and bring in Brody Slack, the starting right guard, who's battled through some injury issues this season. And so, Brody, I'll start with that. You've been banged up a little bit along with some of the other guys. So how are you feeling as you head into tomorrow night?
I'm feeling a little bit sore. I got some stuff going on in my elbow, but feel ready to go and ready to lay some wood.
Obviously, you guys probably feel like after the past couple of weeks you want to prove something. You're going up against another quality team. We've had Coach Goodman on here obviously several times, and he's talked about not looking at the scoreboard, not worrying about anything other than the next play. So how important is that, especially when you're playing one of those big-name CIML teams like Johnson tomorrow, Waukee next week, those teams that show up in the rankings? How important is it to kind of forget all that and just focus on one play at a time?
It's pretty important because, going against those big teams, everybody thinks you're the underdog, and you're not going to win that game. So you try not to pay attention to the scoreboard and pay attention to the guy across from you, and as long as you're kicking his butt and you're doing what you need to do and you win your spot. And
along those same lines, maybe that mindset, when you've come off a few weeks like you guys have had, how do you keep that mindset up, keep those spirits up? You come back to practice and getting ready for another week of work after a game like last week. How do you guys keep those spirits up?
We start every week 0-0, and we try to look to finish the week 1-0 with a win. That's the way we look at every week.
That is right guard Brody Slack. And now, Brody, I'll ask you to hand the headset down there to Tanner Holman. And Tanner Holman, the Bulldogs starting center, is Tanner, I think you've maybe only missed 1 week of this show so far, but that's good. We like having you on every week. And obviously, you'd like to put last weekend behind you and move on. And as we've talked about, though, it doesn't get any easier. Johnston this week, Waukee next week, then we're finally done with the purple teams. But you know what it's like now to battle those big-name schools. You've been in these games. What can you tell, or what have you maybe told some of the younger guys in your role as a captain? What have you told the younger guys about what to expect when you go up against these big schools?
I don't really look at it any different than anyone we've gone against already. Everyone's pretty much the same. It's just how bad you want it and how bad you're going to go after each other each game, and that's pretty much it.
That makes sense. And then one more question for you. Season's more than half over now, and I hate to be reminding you of this, but as a senior, you've got 4 games left in your Ottumwa career. Do you feel that urgency that you go out to practice each day and think, I'm starting to run out of time here, I got to make the rest of these days count?
Yeah, it's hard to just not be able to play here anymore, but I'm just going to give everything I got and play for my guys that need to build and help my guys be ready for next year that are needing to play and all that. So
that's a great attitude for a senior and a captain to have. That's Tanner Holman, the starting center for Ottumwa, the right guard Brody Slack, and offensive line coach Brett Cancelar. We're going to take a timeout here on the Elise Photography Coach's Corner. When we return, we'll be talking defense with Ottumwa defensive line coach Kurt Hopkins and 2 of his guys on the line, Gabe Jacobs and Jesus Jaime. That comes your way next. The Elise Photography Coach's Corner on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
Are you looking for someone to capture the special moments in life, such as senior photos, weddings, family portraits, baby pictures, or even your furry friends? Look no further than Lee's Photography in Ottumwa to schedule your appointment. Brian, Connie, and the staff at Lee's Photography have the knowledge and experience to capture your special moments and make your vision come to life. Visit them on Facebook to see the range of their work. Lee's Photography on East 2nd Street, across from the Courier in Ottumwa, for all your all-around photography needs.
As a National Guard or Reserve member, you served your country. Now let VA serve you.
I wouldn't be here today as a successful woman without the help that I received.
Your VA honors your service by providing a wide range of veterans benefits. From home loans to job training, VA benefits can help with some of life's toughest challenges.
what's important about VA benefits is they don't just touch you as an individual. They can touch your parents, maybe your grandparents, your child.
Go to benefits.va.gov/guardreserve to learn more, including how to apply online using eBenefits.
I just finished a master's degree recently, and now I'm working on another degree as well. So the military made that all possible. My veterans benefits made that all possible.
No matter what the time is, apply for your benefits. You earn them. VA is ready to help you.
Achieve your next mission. Learn about and apply for your VA benefits today.
Welcome back to the Lease Photography Coach's Corner on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
And we continue with the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner here on 1240 AM, 102.7 FM KBIZ, and a live video stream at AttumwaRadioSports.com. Jason Van Arkel with you. Still talking Ottumwa football, joined now by defensive line coach Kurt Hopkins, as well as defensive end Gabe Jacobs, and defensive tackle and punter and kickoff specialist, by the way, Jesus Jaime. Wears a lot of hats. We'll talk to the players in a minute. Kurt, want to start with you. And I asked Brett Kanzler a moment ago about injuries, and the same concept would apply to the D-line. There's no way to get through a season without having to deal with them. Where do your guys defensively stand health-wise heading into tomorrow night?
Health-wise, we stand actually pretty good. You know, Trey Schwartz was a guy that we used quite a bit early on, but, you know, we've dealt with that for the last few weeks, and I got the guys that I want out there, and we keep shuffling guys in, trying to find new guys every single day. And I feel that the health of my guys and the mentality of my guys is, you know, we're going to play through injuries, we're going to play through being banged up. It's just a mental thing at this point.
One of those guys you shuffled in is Colton Carnahan. He popped up at DN last week and made some nice plays in what was a tough game overall. He had 3.5 tackles, big tackle for loss that I hope I gave him the proper credit for on the air on Friday. And it looks like, you know, he's getting the chance to start tomorrow night. Now he's undersized for that position, and he began the season as backup cornerback on defense. So what's allowed him to make that transition to defensive end and to stand out like he did last week?
The big thing is with Colton is I know when he goes out there on the field, he's going to give everything he has and dedicate himself to learning you know, a spot that he's never played before. And big thing with him is we're trying to use his speed the best we can, you know, not go in the natural position that, you know, you see a lot of DNs and D linemen specifically just taking on a guy, you know. We're going to try to move him around quite a bit and let him make his own plays with using his foot speed off the edge.
And I want to say, and I'm trying to recall something off the top of my head, and I may mess up the name, but I want to say that in the time I've been here in Ottumwa, we've kind of had a history of undersized but fast defensive ends. I'm thinking all the way back to my first year, which would have been 2012. Kid named, I think, Logan McCarty had a big year for head coach Zach Fonz back then. It seems like we always get those guys who use their speed, and they can make plays. You know, I've tried not to talk as much about the fact that we're facing bigger teams just week in and week out because it's the same old story. But you get a guy like Colton who's got that kind of speed, and they can make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does. Big thing is, you know, adjusting from is the toughest part is our coach's mentality is adjusting to having smaller, quicker linemen is, you know, we got to put them on the move. We got to get them going, put them at the advantage, you know, use their skills as an advantage against those bigger guys.
Now, so far, every team you've played has basically run the ball a lot more than they've thrown it. Johnston is different. Their run-pass balance a lot closer to 50-50, and they've got quite a few more passing yards and rushing yards. So does that mean in practice this week you put more emphasis on getting pressure on the quarterback, maybe not necessarily getting a bunch of sacks, although that would be nice, but just making a quarterback uncomfortable in the pocket?
Yeah, I mean, we worked on it quite a bit this week. I wouldn't say we worked on it heavily, you know, over the run, because at the end of the day we still need to shut down that run. And but we did work on it more. Work on you know, if we're not going to get there, because you're not going to make every sack or make every tackle, get your hands in his face, make it difficult for him to get that ball off. And you know, we had a couple things happen in practice today that actually one of our D linemen was pretty pumped up about. Slacked the ball down, you know. We got an interception off of it, flying around making plays, and you know, just getting the kids excited. When they make plays, the biggest thing is, like, you know, that's one thing that has kind of changed this year is when kids are making plays, the rest of the team's excited for them. And we're trying to keep on pushing that. You know, when something big happens, you know, get pumped up. I'm fine with that, you know. You know, jump up in the air, slap each other's hands, everything like that. Get excited, you know.
Absolutely. And then you talk about also making sure you stop the run. And with Johnston, one of the things you need to stop in the run is their starting quarterback, because he's also their second leading rusher. So I imagine you're hoping you guys will find that balance. You want to pressure him, but you want to stay disciplined too. You don't want him getting outside the pocket, breaking contain, and making big plays with his legs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the kid's a pretty big kid. I mean, he'll run downhill on it. He's not afraid. He's not, the most agile guy in the world, but he'll run downhill, and he's a pretty tough kid. So we've taken attuned to that, and, we've gotten after it this week, and we're really trying to, hammer down on the run. And then, his pass is still a factor too, because he's got a nice arm and he's got some good receivers, out there with him. So big thing is just doing our jobs, worrying about what we're supposed to do ourselves on every single play.
And the last question for you, and it's the same one I posed to Brett, having played these guys last year at their place, maybe you're more familiar with them than you would be if you'd only seen them on tape. Are you able to go back to last year's tape and kind of look at what they did and say, okay, I've got a better idea of what to expect this year?
Yeah, I mean, you can go back and watch some. Realistically, a lot of the guys, they lost a few key pieces, but there's a lot of guys that are the same, and just watching it, knowing that now, like, hey, they're a complete offense. They're not afraid to throw it around, no matter who you are. They're not afraid to run it right down your throat as well. So, I mean, it is good to have that 2 years, the second year to trying to study and figure out, ways to stop them.
Defensive line coach Kurt Hopkins for Ottumwa High, and now we'll move down the table to defensive end Gabe Jacobs, making his first appearance on the show. Gabe, welcome to the show. And talking about taking on Johnson, you have one of only 2 sacks for Ottumwa this year, but I don't put a lot of stock in the fact that we don't have a lot of sacks because everybody's been running the ball. But as I talked about with Coach Hopkins, you haven't had many chances to get after the quarterback. As a defensive end, is this maybe the kind of game you've been looking forward to, one where at times they're going to drop back some more, give you more chances to get after the quarterback?
Yeah, it'll give us a lot of opportunity to, rest the quarterback and do a lot of things for us. Just what Hopkins says all the time, he says get home, and it's just something we really got to focus on during the game.
Now, you're on one side, and now as we talk about Colton Carnahan is on the other, and both you guys about the same, kind of undersized defensive ends. What he talked about getting you guys in motion, getting you guys in space where you have a chance to make plays. What are some of the things that you guys work on in practice, maybe some of the techniques, if you can kind of explain them a little bit. What do you guys work on to give you a chance to get around those bigger offensive linemen?
Every day we start, the defense. We start with going in the chutes. We got to stay low, work on our hands, shedding them off, try to get around. I mean, we just work hard on it every day, and we just do our best that we can.
All right, and always trying to keep things upbeat, whether you're talking about the team here on the show tonight or when I do the games on the air when you're playing on Friday nights. But there's no denying that it's been a tough few weeks for this team, especially the last couple of weeks. How do you guys keep your spirits up? How do you keep fighting through the adversity, keep coming back?
Like Brody touched on earlier, we start every game, like every week that we're 0-0. It's our first game. We try to get 1-0, and we just work our best the whole week. Yeah, you just
keep going after it.
Yeah.
Coach likes the answer, so it must be a good answer. All right, Gabe Jacobs, defensive end. I'll ask you to pass the headset down to defensive tackle, and as we said, punter and now kickoff specialist as well, Jesus Jaime, the junior who first made a name for himself on Ottumwa's baseball team, but has now made a name for himself on the football team as well. Jesus, welcome to the show, and I want to kind of start with that because you didn't play football last season, but this fall you step right in, you're a starter on the defensive line. How hard was it at the beginning to kind of get up to speed, get to where you're comfortable, playing and being a starter, and do you feel like you're maybe still learning on the job?
Yeah, I'm definitely still learning, but it was very difficult at the beginning. Didn't know anything, but I feel like I'm doing an okay job at it.
Well, we've seen a lot of progress, certainly. And I talked to Coach Goodwin at the start of the season. He said he came to you and asked you to go out for football. What did he say to you to get you to say, okay, I'll go out, I'll try it?
I've always wanted to try it.
So you just waited for the invitation, he brought it to you. That works. Now, you've also taken over as the punter and the kickoff specialist, and especially the last couple of weeks, you've been hitting some really big punts. You've pinned the other team deep a few times. I would imagine still that making a big play on defense maybe feels better than just hitting a big punt, but can you describe how it feels when you hit one of those big punts and your guys down at the 10, the 5-yard line? What's that like?
I mean, it's always good to see the ball rolling, so.
And I had another question written down here, and that actually doesn't make sense, so I'll try to go with something else here. Going back to playing on the defensive line, I know in the first couple weeks, and I met you had to go off. I think you were just cramping. First couple weeks you got hurt. Is that one of the things you had to learn, the process of, hey, I've got to make sure, I'm hydrated. I got to prepare, not just have the Gatorade in the water there during the game, but in the weeks leading up to the game. Kind of part of that process of preparing yourself to play each Friday?
Yeah, it was all new to me, and I learned that too.
How much of your teammates helped you out? The guys you're lining up next to?
Everybody.
Everybody stepping up?
Yeah.
Coach, you can put the mic back on, Coach.
Yeah, how much have they helped you out, Chewy, is what he's asking. Like, how much has Gabe and Brody and Tanner and Quentin and Colton and all these guys helped you out getting through this?
Jesus Jaime, should I say? I mean, he's pretty much taking a starting role, starts every week, and is making plays. It's a starring role for a guy, and it is amazing, for a guy that hadn't played football before to step in and make a big difference in a spot that the team really needed someone to step up and make a difference. Because we've been, I don't want to knock anybody who's played that spot the last several years, but we've been undersized, and now there's a guy in there who can kind of hold up and make a difference. So Jesus, you've done a great job. Love watching it play. Looking forward to seeing the rest of the season. Same with you, Gabe Jacobs, the defensive end. Defensive line coach Kurt Hopkins here joining us on the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner. And again, Ottumwa will take on Johnston tomorrow night. Back at home at Schaefer Stadium. Good to be back at home. We only get 4 home games this year, and we've already played half of them. Kind of hard to believe. But the Bulldogs and the Dragons tomorrow night at 7:30, and you'll hear it right here on 1240 AM, 102.7 FM KBIZ, and you'll see it if you're able to log on to AttumwaRadioSports.com. This same channel that you're watching the show on tonight will have the game tomorrow night. So the Bulldogs hoping to bounce back from a couple of rough weeks and hopefully pull a surprise against a Johnston team. They may be thinking this might be easy like it was last year, but the Bulldogs have other ideas. We're going to take another time out here on the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner, and when we continue, it should be time to talk Cardinal football. They're coming off their first loss of the year. They'll be looking to bounce back at home tomorrow night when they take on Durant. Head coach Landon Miller's bringing a couple of players up to talk to us as well tonight, so that's coming your way next. It is the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner here on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
Are you looking for someone to capture the special moments in life, such as senior photos, weddings, family portraits, baby pictures, or even your furry friends? Look no further than Lee's Photography in Ottumwa to schedule your appointment. Brian, Connie, and the staff at Lee's Photography have the knowledge and experience to capture your special moments and make your vision come to life. Visit them on Facebook to see the range of their work. Lee's Photography on East 2nd Street, across from the Courier in Ottumwa, for all your all-around photography needs. Welcome back to the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
And we continue with the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner here on 1240 AM, 102.7 FM KBIZ, and a live video stream at AttumwaRadioSports.com, live from Lee's Photography in downtown Ottumwa. I'm Jason Van Arkel, and I'm joined now by Davis County head coach Kent Anderson, and I think kind of like last week, we're just kind of swapping spots, Davis County and Cardinal, so we'll go Davis County first, and the Mustangs coming off tough game last week at Williamsburg, 49-12. We knew going in how good Williamsburg could be, and they certainly showed it. So another week, another tough opponent for your kids. And we've talked a lot about your young guys needing to learn and improve this season. Now you're past the halfway point. You played 5 games, 4 more to go. Talk about how much progress you've seen out of these young kids.
I wasn't really distraught last week after the game. I thought we were in position to make plays, and there's just some things, and you have one of the top sprinters in the state, getting the ball about every snap over there. So I really wasn't so disgruntled about the loss, and that kind of sums up the whole year to this point. We're 1-4. I understand that, but when you look at the big picture, I think we're making improvements. We've had 2 really good weeks of practice, and I can see it. And maybe right now, because we're so young, I don't know if it'll transfer into the games, but I know this team's getting better. I can see it in the practice. I can see it in their attitudes. I can see it when we watch video. I can see it in a walkthrough. They're maturing. They're, the beginning of the year, a walkthrough, they didn't understand what a walkthrough was, and they didn't understand how to comprehend that. And a walkthrough, well, we're not practicing. We're just going to kind of – so we're growing up. We're maturing, and I know we're getting better. I really do. And maybe it'll transfer onto the game field, but maybe not. But I know we're getting better.
We also talked at the start of the season about hoping your kids, as they were learning and improving, facing some really tough physical teams, about staying healthy. Now that we've hit the halfway point and past it, how have your kids held up health-wise? Where are you so far?
Got a little banged up last week. We're probably going to miss Riley Heller, who was a guest here a couple weeks ago, and he's a 6'5", 220-pound tight end, defensive end. He's probably he's our best lineman by far, and we'll miss him this week. And he won't be out, hopefully, just this game. Dalton Main, who's actually stepped up in his place. He's a heavyweight wrestler for us his first year playing football as a junior, and has really come on, and he just got a little, just a flu thing going on. So it's just the nature of the beast there. So other than that, we're pretty healthy. We'll fill the gaps where we can and try to do the best we can. And again, I was really pleased with the kids who stepped up this week in practice to fill those shoes. You're not the only coach I've talked to who's talked about the flu affecting their team. Apparently it's been going around, so it's just something everybody has to deal with. All right, some positives from last week's game. Carson Zittler had over 100 receiving yards, now leads the team in receptions, yards, and touchdown catches. What's allowed him to develop the connection he has with Carson Maters? I was talking to Ellis, and he says he's really seeing that connection develop. Trust. I think, when Carson Mater and Carson Zittler, and not just those two, but they're great practice players. Carson Zittler will come out and he'll run the first route. He'll go through stretch. He'll go through routes. When you go transition from drill to drill, we try to move fast. He's always the first one line, and he's not always the first one at the beginning of the transition. He'll pass people to be first in line at the drill. So I think Carson Mater, both quarterbacks, they appreciate that, and they know that the timing of his reps in practice aren't much different than the timing of the game. It's not that everybody else isn't, but it's just he has this thing going on, this trust thing. And I think Carson trusts all his receivers, but I think there's something that's special that they've developed. There's a couple big plays, and he developed that synergy, and it's on.
And the nice thing about it is Carson Mater's a sophomore, and I think Zittler's a junior. And so this isn't just a connection for this season and for 4 more games. This is something they can carry into next year as well.
Absolutely. I'm just really pleased. Last week, the first series, Carson Mater throws a pick 6. And there is an opportunity. So as we talked about, I said either you're going to capitulate right here and you're going to get really down about this pick 6, or you're going to come back and fight through it. And he's learning to fight through adversity because he did. He came back and he had a pretty good game and threw a couple touchdown passes after that. And I'm glad he's getting those things done. There's a lot of times young athletes, they come up and they haven't had that. And I always tell the boys, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. So, and we're getting the waves right now, and they're going to learn a lot through these waves if we handle it the right way. And I've just been really pleased the way he's handled the waves.
And hopefully he'll continue to do so. And take a look at the defensive side. Obviously, it's a tough week playing that Williamsburg team, but Clayton Smith led the team, 5.5 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss. And we haven't talked a lot about him, but he's now 3rd on the team in tackles. Kind of talk about how he's developed as the season has progressed.
Immensely. And it really started last year. At the end of the last year, we kind of moved him up as a sophomore to start, and he got a little confidence at the end of the year. Got in the weight room. He ran track, went out for track, and I think he'll be a sub-23, 200-meter kid for us. He's gotten stronger, and he just starts to develop his confidence, and it's all just a confidence factor, and he's becoming kind of that quiet leader type on the team. So I'm really pleased with Clayton, and he's a good running back for us too. He's carried the ball quite a bit, so he's on the stats there. And if it's not Gavin McCall, it's going to be Clayton Smith as that second back going in there.
Now, tomorrow night, a shorter drive than last week to take on Eddyville, Blakesburg, Fremont. Now, they're coming off a win over Albia, but they had to play the second half of that game on Monday. So it would seem like that would give your team an advantage. you've got your whole game in on Friday and you've had the normal week. Do you think that's a significant benefit, or is that maybe just a minor one?
I don't think it's significant benefit. It would have been nice if we'd had that hot temperature all week. That would have helped us a little bit. And they played under, but Eddyville's good. They're a big play team. They'll be ready. Their coaches will have their kids ready. Their kids will be ready. They're all competitors. So I don't think it has any bearing. Because usually that day afterward, your first day isn't really till Tuesday. You have some learning processes on Monday, and they were playing on Monday. Only a half. It's only a half. So they did kind of get a nice little break in there. But they'll be ready. They're good. They're a good team, and they're a big play team. So I'm not. That's not a factor going in. Not for us anyway.
Okay. The Rockets are different than most teams in the area because they depend a lot more on the passing game than most teams do. So how different has this week been for your defense in terms of preparation?
A little bit different. We came out of the Pekin game, and, as Landon will attest, Pekin will run the ball. We went from Pekin to just, we say playing in a phone booth, everything was all boxed in, and we're just not that kind of football team. And then last week, just team speed. I mean, my goodness, we had the angle on them a lot, and you can't tackle what you can't catch. And we had that experience. So this is a different week of preparation. I think it's something that we were looking forward to be honest with you. Not because it's Eddyville or not because of what they do, but I think it puts us in an area that's kind of what we do. We're kind of a spread team. We'll throw it a little bit, and so it kind of puts us in a comfort zone.
And knowing that EBF passes more, is this week maybe, just speculating here, maybe a bit more exciting for your defensive ends and your defensive backs? For the defensive ends, more chances to rush the quarterback, maybe get a sack or two, and then their QB has thrown 6 interceptions this year, so maybe more chances to force some turnovers, pick off some passes.
That one would hope to think so. There is the opportunity, but we have to play solid defense because the thing is they'll sneak in there, they'll run the option, and they'll get you with that option, and they make you defend the whole field. So that if you look at their plays against Eddyville or against Albia, they had 2 big plays in that game, 2 long passes. Their first touchdown of the first half was a pass over 25 yards. They had a kickoff return. They're big plays. So they'll stretch you vertically with the passing game, but then they stretch you horizontally with that option game. So you still have to defend the whole field. And they're able to run the ball inside, so we really have to defend everything.
And now, last question. You're coming, as you said, you're coming off 2 really good weeks of practice. You did face 2 really tough teams the last 2 weeks in Pekin and Williamsburg. Now it's an EBF team that a lot of people would consider a rival in a lot of sports, not just football. It's a game people look at and say, well, yeah, this is a game your team may have a chance to win. Win or lose, though, what would you like to see your kids show? Coming off those 2 tough games, what would you like to see your kids show tomorrow night?
I bet if we had them all in here, they'd say the same thing, 4 quarters. We haven't done that yet. We've allowed teams to get up on us, and I think we kind of, they're up on us now, we can kind of relax and play. And we got to go bell to bell. That's been the challenge all week from the first minute of practice to the end of practice, just like a first minute of the game to the end of the game. We have to go bell to bell. So that's what exactly has to happen for us to have a chance.
Davis County head coach Kent Anderson, again, his team on the road at Eddyville, Blakesburg, Fremont tomorrow night. Kickoff is scheduled for 7 o'clock, and you can watch a live video stream at AtumwaRadioSports.com. Ellis Kojo will have the call. Corey, our video producer, will be producing the video in Eddyville tomorrow night. I don't know if it's supposed to rain tomorrow night or not. Hopefully not anything like we experienced last week. But maybe one more quick question here. You played a lot of games in warmer conditions. This is going to be a game played in what actually feels like fall now. Is there any change with that, or is that maybe like a welcome change? Maybe you're not quite as worried about kids cramping or things like that
it's
anymore.
It's a very welcome change on a shallow roster. We don't have the depth. So I noticed that, when you play in the temperatures, you sweat, you lose body fluids, cramping, things like that. You're still going to sweat, but I think you could tell. I think every coach is going to say kids were fresher this last couple days of practice. Everything. I felt good out there for crying out loud. So I think the temperature has a big bearing, and it'll help them just as much as it helps us, however.
Davis County head coach Kent Anderson, again, at Eddyville, Blakesburg, Fremont tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Live video stream at AtumwaRadioSports.com. Ken, thanks again for the time. Best of luck. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, we will talk Cardinal football with their head coach, Landon Miller. A couple of players on the way as well. Cardinal looking to bounce back after a hard-fought multi-day battle with Pekin, delayed and resumed because of weather. We'll talk about that and how they're getting ready for Durant. That's coming your way next on the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner here on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
Are you looking for someone to capture the special moments in life, such as senior photos, weddings, family portraits, baby pictures, or even your furry friends? Look no further than Lee's Photography in Ottumwa to schedule your appointment. Brian, Connie, and the staff at Lee's Photography have the knowledge and experience to capture your special moments and make your vision come to life. Visit them on Facebook to see the range of their work. Lee's Photography on East 2nd Street, across from the Courier in Ottumwa, for all your all-around photography needs.
As a National Guard or Reserve member, you served your country. Now let VA serve you.
I wouldn't be here today as a successful woman without the help that I received.
Your VA honors your service by providing a wide range of veterans benefits. From home loans to job training, VA benefits can help with some of life's toughest challenges.
What's important about VA benefits is they don't just touch you as an individual. They can touch your parents, maybe your grandparents, your child.
Go to benefits.va.gov/Guard Reserve to learn more, including how to apply online using e-benefits.
I just finished a master's degree recently, and now I'm working on another degree as well. So the military made that all possible. My veterans benefits made that all possible.
No matter what the time is, apply for your benefits. You earn them. VA is ready to help you.
Achieve your next mission. Learn about and apply for your VA benefits today.
Welcome back to the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.
And we continue on the Lee's Photography Coach's Corner here on 1240 AM, 102.7 FM KBIZ, and a live video stream at AttumwaRadioSports.com. One more team to talk about here tonight. That is the Cardinal Comets, who are 4-1. They are coming off their first loss of the season, a hard-fought game that took 3 days to complete against Pekin. We're joined now by their head coach, Landon Miller, as well as running back and linebacker, Max Betancourt, and tight end and linebacker, Jarrett Ray. Coach, we'll start with you, as we always do. Unlike last year, your kids were in that game. It's 14-0 in the third quarter. Then the lightning comes. It gets suspended. When you come back, you play on Sunday. They had a couple of TDs, 2-point conversions late. Makes the score look, I think, worse than how well you guys played. The margin bigger than like I said, the game showed, and they ran the ball probably as well as you feared they would. We talked about what Dane Eckley could do last week, but you gave Pekin a much better game overall. So how would you assess your kids' effort last weekend?
Yeah, we don't ever want to settle for a loss, and we talked about that after the game, is don't be happy with what happened here this weekend, really. But at the end of the day, I told them I was really proud of them, really proud of how they fought. Like you said, it was 14-0 at the end of the third. We couldn't get much going offensively, but defensively, I tell you what, they kept in it, and that's the game when you play Pekin, is you have to stay in it, you have to make them drive the football, and you hope they make a mistake and you capitalize. And we had 3 turnovers there on that Friday, and so we were able to capitalize on it. But they're a heck of a ball club. Everybody knows that. They're well coached. They've got great kids, and they do the same thing they always do. And I thought our kids fought really hard, and I was proud. And one thing I will say is, I always look for little checkpoints in our program. Winning losses is great, but I look for checkpoints on how are we improving. And if you look at the margin of victory we've had this year, that's a checkpoint. Since 1991, Cardinal is 0-23 against Pekin. The average score is 8 to 51.5. So to play like we did on that night, I'm proud of these guys for stepping up and taking on the challenge.
And as we talked about, last week we talked about dealing with the delays, and you talked about how last year that was harmful, not just that night, but going forward. So you end up starting the game on Friday. You don't finish it until Sunday. Have you tried to do anything differently in practice this week, since you didn't play a full game on Sunday? You didn't even play half a game, but you did play some, and you don't quite get the full week between games to recover.
Yeah, we did a little bit different this week. We gave them Monday off because I think these kids, they put so much into this. Every hour that I ask of them, that to take a day like Sunday away from them, we gave them off. We did some mental stuff. We got them stretched out, but we gave them off, and then we dove in on Tuesday. It puts everything back a little bit, but we made up some time this week and switched some things around so that we still had the exact same preparation that we would for any week.
I wanted to talk about Griffin Greiner, and we've had him on the show, and we've talked about him, his skill as a receiver, but I'm looking at the stats you put in today. 17.5 tackles.
Mm-hmm.
I would be impressed if an NFL linebacker had 17 and a half tackles. How does a high school kid do that?
Yeah, so, part of it is an unfortunate thing where they're getting to him. He plays our safety and some linebacker, but mostly safety in this game. He's a great athlete, as we know, but we put him in a position to say Dane is not going to get past you. And so from what they do is they really wall you down and make you get over the top. And we struggled with that on Friday and Sunday. But Griffin was in position to make plays, and he didn't miss, And so that's kind of where it's an unfortunate thing that they got to him. But at the same time, I'm glad he made those plays.
And he's keeping them from getting those really big games.
Yep.
So, all right. Now you're 4-1. You've run into your real adversity now for the first time this year. Last year, your team couldn't stop that slide, so to speak, ended up 4-5. Now that you've been through that and you're a year later, and obviously some new kids here, but a lot of kids who went through that a year ago, what do your kids need to do to bounce back? And what lessons can they learn both from last year and this year in order to bounce back?
Yeah, we talked about how we practice. I think being 4-0 and winning by the margins that we did, there's some things in practice that change, that get a little bit more lackadaisical, laissez-faire, if you will. And so we talked about as a team, and I let the leaders of the team get up and talk about this too, is we got to go back to, being very disciplined, by the book, not messing around, and business-like when we're at practice. And that's what it's going to take. And I challenge them no matter what happens. And I said today, if we go, 8-1 and go on and play in the playoffs, like we're going to practice the same way as if we are going to go 0-4 the rest of the way. We got to continue to grind it out because we can get some wins with this team. This team is ready and hungry, but we got to practice like it.
Your next opportunity tomorrow night is against Durant. Last year you faced them on the road, and they were on their way to the playoffs, and that ended up being one of those long nights for your team. This season, on paper, they don't look as good. They're 2-3. They haven't beaten a team with a winning record, but obviously they still have talent, and they've got kids who were on that playoff team a year ago. So first off, talk about the challenge of facing Durant, what you remember from last year, and how much of that may be still applicable this year, because they do look a little different.
Yeah, what's challenging about Durant is they lost a lot from last year. Receiver, quarterback, running back, tight end, all guys that were just great athletes, good size. What's funny about that is they just reload. They've got athletes all over the place. They got a freshman, Nolan DeLong, who's a great athlete. 6-footer, 175 pounds, guy can run. Quarterback can throw it. They've got a receiver every year that can make plays. They've got a Division I lineman who's 6'7", 340. They've got another 300-pounder on there. So they've got the makings of a good team. But I think a lot of that is they're learning as they go with their lack of experience because all those guys left last year. So our challenge this week is to be disciplined. What I told the guys is, honestly, the first 4 games, those were weight room games. Those were games that showed you guys have put in the work, in the weight room, your speed, your strength. Now, these aren't weight room games anymore. These are guys that lift and run and work out just as much as you do. Now you have to execute and play football at a high level.
You mentioned the big guys that Durant has, the 2 really big guys in particular. I've asked this question of just about everybody else we've had in here because, especially Ottumwa playing in the 4A level, has seen some really big kids. Yep. Davis County's seen some big kids. Playing down in Class A, you don't see a lot of those 300-pounders. And then you go to play Durant tomorrow night, and they're going to be there, and they're going to be larger than life. What do you tell your kids going up against them? What do you tell them about how to handle that size and how to defeat that size?
You got to play with technique first and foremost. So we talked a lot about on the D-line and linebackers. How do you defeat blocks against big guys? What do you do? What do you have that they don't have? And a lot of time it's speed. You look at some of these guys who play linebacker right here, they're not 300-pounders. They're 160 to 190. And so what do is you use your hands, you use your eyes, and use your feet. And so we've been drilling that a lot this week. And hopefully, if they can execute the game plan, I feel like we'll be in a good spot.
All right, you get Durant at home tomorrow night. Hopefully, not quite sure how the weather's going to be. Certainly, I don't think it's going to be stormy like it was last week. But hopefully you get a big crowd out there, a home crowd to cheer you on. And then when you take the field, what do you guys have to do? What do you guys need to have happen tomorrow night for you to get what would be your first district win since 2017?
Yeah, so, with Gabe Reyes being out, he probably won't play until the end of the year. which is sad for him. The kid's put a lot of work in. He's a great kid, great player. We got to be able to throw the football. We have to be able, and that was something we couldn't do on Sunday. It was raining. We even had a lightning delay on Sunday too. But, we got to be able to throw the football, and we got to complete passes. We got to catch the passes. We got to block up front. Moving forward, we want to make sure that we throw to set up the run. We're not really a run to set up the throw type of team. So we got some athletes. We got to get them in position to make plays. They got to run good routes. We have to block up front, and then we have to be able to complete those.
Cardinal head coach Landon Miller, again, his team getting ready to take on Durant tomorrow night. Now we'll head down the table here and talk to a couple of his players. And first, Max Betancourt, senior running back and linebacker. And as Coach and I talked about it when we started the segment, you guys played Pekin a lot tougher this year, but the game still didn't go your way. Do you feel like the game maybe showed you guys where you are as a team right now and maybe how far you still need to grow in order to become the kind of team you want to be?
I definitely think that Pekin was a good milestone for us, They're a really physical team, and we try to play our best football, and it's too short.
Now, moving forward, season's more than half over. There's only 4 games left in the regular season, and, I'm going to hold out hope. Certainly the Cardinal is playing past game number 9, but you only have 4 regular season games left in the Cardinal uniform. How much extra motivation does that give you now that we've moved into October?
Well, last year we had a senior, Trey Albert, and he practiced hard every day and played the game just as it's supposed to be played. So I took that into account, and he said play the game like it should be played and play it with your all.
Now, as Coach mentioned, said Gabe Reyes is out at the running back spot, and that's a big loss for you guys. You play some running back. How much more maybe load do you feel or maybe pressure do you feel to perform knowing that you've got to fill the role or at least help fill the role of a guy who's not going to be able to play for a while?
Yeah, Gabe's my buddy, and he gives me a lot of motivation when I'm at practice or I'm at the games. And we have another running back too, so it's definitely pretty good to have a little bit of rest in defense and offense-wise.
And then final question for you before we get to Jarrett. Big game tomorrow night at home. Maybe not something maybe to tell me, maybe tell something or something you can tell, I should say, to the Cardinal fans watching. I imagine you want them to come out to the stadium no matter what the weather is, come out and give you guys a big crowd. I imagine a big crowd give you a big boost tomorrow night.
I'd love for them to scream loud, and just have them there, all of them.
Max Betancourt, senior running back and linebacker, and I'll have you pass the headset down to Jarrett Ray, who's tight end and linebacker for Cardinal. And Jarrett, welcome to the show. Same question I asked Max a moment ago. As a senior, do you feel an extra sense of urgency headed into these final 4 regular season games, maybe especially after a loss last weekend that you're running out of opportunities, you want to make the most of it?
Just like, he said, Trey Albert, play every game like it's your last. Give it everything, leave everything on the field. Just try your best.
Now, the offense had been humming along through the first 5 games, and it sputtered really for the first time all season last week. As you've maybe look back at the game and think back to how the game went, can you maybe pinpoint any areas where things might have gone wrong and what you guys need to do, where you need to execute well tomorrow night to get back on track?
I just think we sometimes didn't execute on our routes hard enough, didn't run them 100%, come out here this Friday and run everything, make it look smooth.
Jarrett Ray, the tight end and linebacker, we're running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to have to cut loose a couple of questions here. But, again, thanks for coming on the show. I want to come back to Coach Miller here for one final question before we run out of time. And you talked about Gabe Reyes being injured, and I asked the Ottumwa coaches this, and I asked Coach Anderson of Davis County this. More than halfway through the season now, where is your team health-wise? Because, obviously, losing Reyes is a big blow, but beyond that, where is your team health-wise getting ready for tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think we're in a better spot than we were last year. I remember going into this game and telling Durant's head coach, hey, I'm down 9 guys, so we've got a lot of freshmen and guys, playing that necessarily maybe shouldn't be playing in a varsity game. I remember that, and this year I think the weight room has helped us a lot. Be able to sustain, some of the season that we have halfway through. But I feel good at where we're at. I feel like our guys are healthy. I know at practice it looks lively. It doesn't look sluggish. So I think hats off to the guys too, because I always tell them, eat. We need 5 meals a day if you can. We need to hydrate. We need to make sure we get sleep because it's the best performance enhancer out there. And make sure you rest when you can.
Cardinal head coach Landon Miller, along with seniors Max Betancourt and Jarrett Ray. Cardinal football at home tomorrow night. love to see a big Comet crowd out there in Eldon as they take on Durant. And, Coach, you're finally not playing another team from the area, so I can say I absolutely hope you guys win tomorrow night. Openly root for the Comets. We'd love to see them get win number 5 on the season and improve to 1-1 in district play and set themselves up maybe a playoff run for Cardinal. We don't have a lot of teams that look like they're playoff competitors this year. Love to see the Comets get into the playoffs. We have run out of time for this week's Lee's Photography Coaches Corner. We'll be back next week on the Ottumwa Radio Sports Network.